Hey everyone, my name is Merrin and I'm a sophomore chemical engineering student at the University of Pittsburgh. Today I'm going to teach you a little bit about chemical engineering. We're going to do two different projects. One is making slime and one is making Oobleck. Before we start that, I'm going to give you a basic definition of chemical engineering. So a chemical engineer is a fancy way of saying someone who creates new things by using math and different sciences to make chemicals. They mix different things together to create new mixtures. These people can work to create new medicines, create clean drinking water, create new plastics, and so many other inventions. Now, I'm sure you all have seen, made, or at least heard of slime, but I bet you never knew it involved chemical engineering. Today, we're going to see how mixing different substances together creates a completely different object. For this project, I want you all to have a parent with you to help. Also, if you want to print out the worksheet found on the Pitt Society of Women Engineers page to follow along with, that could be helpful. So first, I want you all to grab a garbage bag, some newspaper, or something that you can cover your workspace with so it doesn't get messy. Now we're going to get out all of our ingredients. So you're going to need 2/3 of a cup of Elmer's white glue. You're going to need half a teaspoon of baking soda. You're going to need 1/4 cup of water, something to stir with. I'm going to use a spoon. You're going to need 1.5 tablespoons of contact solution, and it must contain boric acid and sodium borate, or the slime won't work. You're going to need a mixing bowl, and then if you want, you can use some shaving cream and some food coloring, but you don't have to. Okay, so I have my trash bag down, and I grabbed my mixing bowl, and you guys should grab measuring cups, but I don't have any, so I'm going to use this cup that I labeled. So to start, we're going to measure out 2/3 of a cup of Elmer's white glue, and then we're going to pour it into our mixing bowl. So now that we have our glue, we're going to measure out 1/4 cup of water. Now we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of the baking soda. Now that we have all of our ingredients in the bowl, we're going to stir them all together. Okay, so now that we mixed it all together, it looks a little bit different. Do you guys think that it looks just like glue, just like water, just like the baking soda, or a mix of all three? It's a mixture of all of them. We're combining 3 different things to make one thing, which is what some chemical engineers do. So even though right now it looks a lot like glue, it doesn't look the exact same, since there's other stuff added to it. Okay, so this next part is optional if you have shaving cream, but if not, that's totally okay. It'll just look a little bit different than mine. We're going to add as much or as little shaving cream as we want. I'm probably going to add about 2 cups so that my slime is fluffy. Now you can also add a couple drops of food coloring if you want, but once again, you don't have to if you don't have any. I'm probably going to add about 5 drops of blue. Okay, so this is the most important part of making our slime. We're going to use the contact solution. I want you guys to take 1.5 tablespoons of contact solution, and remember, it must contain boric acid and sodium borate. So be sure to ask your parents and make sure that it does. Now that you added it to the mixture, start stirring it around and watch how it changes to look totally different. If after a while the slime is too sticky, add a little bit more contact solution to it slowly. Alright, so now that we made our slime, let's see how it looks. Mine doesn't look just like the glue, the water, the baking soda, the food coloring, or the shaving cream. It looks like its own substance, and it's totally different from the rest. That's because we did what chemical engineers do. We took a bunch of different items and added them together to create a whole new one. Now, my slime looks pretty fluffy because I added so much shaving cream. Yours might look more fluffy or less fluffy, depending on how much shaving cream you added. This shows that a different amount of substance can make a new substance look totally different too. Chemical engineers do this often when they need mixtures for different projects that they work on. Good job on making your slime, guys. Now we're going to start with the next project, which is making oobleck. When I was younger, I used to make this all the time, and I'm sure some of you have seen it before, but if not, that's okay too. So once again, we're going to start and make sure that we have a garbage bag, a newspaper, or something protective under our work area so it doesn't get messy. Then we're going to grab some cornstarch and some water to make this one. First, I want you guys just to measure out 1 cup of cornstarch and pour it into your mixing bowl. Now you're going to slowly add 1 cup of water into the mixing bowl and stir it together. We're going to stir it together and you'll see it'll start to get pretty thick. Now that I've stirred it a lot, mine is pretty much just back to a liquid and sort of looks like milk. And that's not what we're going for, so we're going to add 1 more cup of cornstarch to it. Once we start to mix it together, it should start to become thick again. Okay, so mine is just a little bit too thick. As you can see, it's really hard to lift up. So I'm going to go back and add just a little bit of water at a time. So now that I've gone back and forth between adding water and cornstarch a couple times to the mixture to get it just right, it looks pretty good. Now, a lot of chemical engineers do this with their mixtures so that they can get it to be just right, and sometimes it takes a lot of trial and error, so don't give up. My consistency is it looks like it's water on the top, but then if you try to put your spoon into it, it's pretty hard and thick. But then it'll drip down. So we've officially finished making our oobleck, but now we get to play with it and see all the cool things about it. First thing we need to know is what a solid and a liquid is. A solid is something that has a shape and likes to stay in its shape on its own. Solids are like tables, chairs, shirts, shoes, and a ton of other things around you right now. Now, a liquid is something that doesn't have a certain shape, but it takes the shape of its container. Liquids are like water, milk, lemonade, a lot of other things as well. Now, I want you guys to try poking the oobleck. It should be hard and act like a solid. So if you can see when I poke it, it doesn't let my finger go into it much, and it's pretty strong. Now I want you to try slowly lowering your hand into the oobleck and see that it's more like a liquid and eats around your hand. Okay, so now try grabbing some oobleck with your hand, and it might be kind of hard, and then once you have it, put it on the palm of your hand and watch how it turns back to a liquid and just runs right off back into the bowl. Now you can try grabbing some and squeezing it and rolling it in your hand, and you'll see that it acts more like a solid. You have to keep squeezing it though, or it's going to start acting like a liquid again. So sometimes when chemical engineers mix things together, they find out cool new facts, like oobleck. In this experiment, we found a substance that can act like a liquid sometimes and a solid other times, depending on how much pressure you use to hold or play with it. That's all the projects I have for you guys. I hope you had fun learning about chemical engineering. Enjoy your slime and your oobleck.